or liberation just have vastly different understandings of what liberation is for.
I haven't seen this much importance and attention.
The story itself is a really wonderful, really great setup.
Tractor beam has been engaged.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Tractor Beam Comics Reviews, your one-stop shop for in-depth commentary and discussion on the Star Wars comic books that came out today. It is Wednesday, December 18th, 2024. It's the 50th of 52 weeks in comics in 2024. It's also Sequel Trilogy Appreciation Day here on the Underworld Network, and we'll get into that in a little bit. Quick plugs out of the way. Yeah, we are part of the Star Wars Underworld Podcast Network here, and here on the channel, we've got super chats, we've got YouTube memberships, so grateful for any support you guys are willing to provide. Also in the Discord server, get a minty fresh link down below, just chatting about Skeleton Crew, chatting about Star Wars, chatting about Star Wars comics. We got a few folks in there chatting about a whole bunch of different things, including Marvel and Star Wars and Star Trek and who knows what else, celebration plans, all that fun stuff. So you check out description below. I don't quite know what if they have any events coming up because into the holiday season, but check out that space for more. Also, I'll get to the socials in a second. And put my mental notes here. If you prefer the audio versions of this podcast, we are on Spotify and Apple Podcasts shortly after, good 15-20 minutes after the episode finishes. We finish going live, and then I throw it up on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So, I appreciate. Please do let me know. Actually, if you are listening on Spotify and Apple Podcasts or Apple Podcasts on the audio only format, I should say. Please do let me know. Lastly, last but not leastly, we'll pick up the plugs again after the end. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads at Iron Cannon Pod. Wow, brain cells. EYEONCANONPOD. And of course on ioncannon.bsky.social. I should have brought that one up there. There you go. And of course you can follow Chris Starraptor at Starraptor STARRAPTER. That is on Twitter and YouTube primarily. So check him out there. Check out everything Chris you got going on there. Yeah, we got a whole bunch. We got 5 books, 3 of them by one dude.
Why?
He's busy. Gotta fit them all in. But before we even do that, there was a live action television program on Disney Plus that came out yesterday, and yeah, it was Skeleton Crew episode 3. Is episode 3? Episode 4, whatever number it is where we're up to. And yeah, it was interesting. It was different. I need to watch it again to get a feel of, okay, where is this fitting within the tone and the milieu of Star Wars? But yeah, thinking it through, it felt like Visions in that way, in that it's taking kind of the imagery and ideas of Star Wars, but in a very isolated setting, and kind of didn't give us and maybe enough to buy into the setting. Maybe that would have helped some more in just the context of this planet that's locked in this. I mean, here's a forever war. So there are things that kind of connect to Star Wars, I think. But also was that Padawan novel with Obi-Wan, a young Padawan Obi-Wan.
Oh, yeah.
That kind of had those vibes of just this isolated planet with these kids. So, a little bit of that. But very briefly, what did you think of Skeleton Crew episode 4?
Oh, I really enjoyed it. I also got to watch it again because, yeah, you're right. It does feel quite a bit different. I do like overall how the show has a very fast pace to it, a very good trajectory based on every episode. We're getting more character beats, learning more about our characters, and we're also pushing the story and the plot overall forward. So it's really doing a great job with the pacing, which sometimes a lot of these shows kind of suffer where they don't give us enough answers until the very end, and we're just waiting on bated breath for 3 or 4 episodes. But I think John Watson team have done a great job with just threading us along and answering things and just putting more mysteries out there. I like how the setting was this dystopian kind of thing with the kids, like all these kids. Like I thought that was so brilliant because you have a show focused on these kids that are so sheltered from all the happenings in the galaxy around them. And then they're suddenly put into this atmosphere of kids like literally trying to survive, like their life depends on using weapons to defend themselves. And it's just a stark reality to what they're used to, because this is literally almost like the same exact setup as their planet, as a treasure planet. Jewel of the Old Republic. It's another Jewel of the Old Republic, and this is the alternate universe basically for them of like, oh, this is actually what could have happened to us. Why is our planet the only one that's still active? So there's a lot of cool stuff. Also, Jad Wood, I think, great scoundrel using the money to go ahead buy the EOPs. I really enjoyed it. I'm going to definitely watch this one again. I don't know if it's my favorite episode. I think still episode 3 might be my favorite because they had some of the best action beats yet. But getting into the character of Neil and seeing how he has like this fear about him. And they did such a great job of just showing him get that confidence towards the end when he's, risking his life on the line against SM-33 and all this crazy stuff happening with this girl like kisses him on the trunk and like it was some wholesome stuff. I got it say it was another good episode, and I'm just happy to say that we are now halfway through the series. And there hasn't been a big dip at all. Like they've been good on the consistency of the quality of the storytelling, the quality of the animatronics and the puppetry and everything involved. That feels just so Star Wars at its heart. This is a good change of pace for Star Wars from what they've had in the last couple series. I think it's going to be, in the end, it's going to be up there with Mandalorian and Andor as the best of the Disney Plus if they can keep this up.
It's going to be hard to top Ahsoka for me, but
this is already better for me than that.
But I will say, I mean, definitely great character beats in this. Neil showing his true colors, his strength, actually, and that's a great theme with Star Wars is the people who are kind and able to listen and able to question why people are actually fighting Star Wars, not pro war. All those themes are definitely there, and Fern not being able to hold it together was also great because we know she can't. She pretends to. She puts up a good face. So, I think I'll especially benefit from episode 5 coming right after this and picking up where this one leaves off. So, kind of a bit like the Acolyte, not quite as poor as Acolyte episode 4, but the way that really benefited from having episode 5 right after it would have benefited if we could see it. I think this one will benefit, especially for the bingers, to see it right after, because that's another thing. It just ends on this weird note, but a weird point. But
I can see that.
So a lot going for it. Also, to your point about the not trading on excruciating lack of reveals. That's something very strongly going for it. So anyways, again, we got 5 comics to get through, 2 from Marvel, 3 from Dark Horse. So we're gonna dive right in, picking up from last week. Of course, we took a break last week, so this one was the one book out. It's Battle of Jakku, Republic Under Siege, number 4 of 4. It's written by Alex Segura, art by Stefano Raffaele, and colors by Alex Sinclair, and cover by Torin Clark. A new Republic on the ropes. Lando and his allies defeated. Mon Mothma faces a painful loss. Luke Skywalker must defeat 2 of the galaxy's deadliest killers to reach his friends, and Moff Adelhard plays a final card against the New Republic with shocking consequences. I gotta say, so this was also a tale of reading it twice. Reading twice. Back and forth when I first read it, because again, it came out last week. Read it a few days ago, maybe kind of on the weekend. Finally got to it, and it felt oddly, it felt fast. It felt, wait a minute, is Oskure the thing that because the thing that stood out to me with Oskure is her sucking Adelhard's face, like, kissing. And so now she's betraying him, and they did a good job of actually showing the communication with Moff Rand, I believe it is, and just refreshing that. But that's interesting. It still felt fast at first. Then just last night I went through and I refreshed. Okay, what happened in issue number 3, and how a lot of conversations about going into that conversation with Rand and about Rax, and how it was time for Oskure to step up and actually betray Adelhard. And this was, and that reinforces again the shocking consequences that the description has. It is apt. It is surprising that is it surprising? I'm trying to decide here, because Adelhard has been such a formidable character in this comic, and just his ability to, at least with the Anowit sector and everything around on Endor with Ewoks, and his ability to build up his stature in the Imperial Remnant, only for him to be disposed of this easily, supposedly. It is a bit surprising. Maybe, as I'm talking about this, thinking, maybe it's more a matter of them trying to put him down. That he's actually gotten too big for his britches, and Gallius Rax actually has to come out of the shadows and say, no, thank you. Go home. And in that case, Reyna Oskure sends him to what we possibly were meant to see as this fiery death crash landing. I'm not convinced he's dead. I'm convinced that's him emerging from in Bragg's armor. At some point they switched the armor. So reading that again, it really did feel a lot more cohesive, and felt like this great. I did like Adelhard's story, but this surprise but a coherent, exciting finale to this issue, and we're already 2/3 of the way through this book, which is amazing. One last thing to say is one thing I'm kind of thinking about, wondering about. I really do like within the comic, within the kind of the story of the comic, Luke saying, let's have to take a fleet and say, let's go and deal with Adelhard, and that the tension there is with Mon Mothma and Admiral Ackbar, and say, well, we actually got to go mass towards Jakku, and the somewhat limited resources of the Republic at this time. They really did a good job of showing that, and Luke's character, and saying, I'm willing to step up and work with the big team, but also recognize, we need to deal with this. The one question I have is how this fits with what is the central drama in Empire's End, and that is the fact that in Empire's End, and hopefully we'll see this in Last Stand, but in Empire's End, the Republic doesn't have a fleet, doesn't have a standing fleet. The whole tension rides on, at least in the second act there, on Mon Mothma and Chancellor Villachem getting authorization for the fleet. Chancellor Mon Mothma and Villachem, I believe he's there, getting authorization for the fleet as a senator at the time. And after like 2 or 3 votes and taking their finally get it. So I'm just wondering, okay, what is this fleet? Again, this is the nerdy thing, but it's a very military story, and so maybe it's worth asking. What is Alex Seguro's thinking about this? Is this another angle of it? Is this a backup fleet? Who knows? I know there have been some questions in this book about continuity. That's always a dicey one, just because, how much do we want to sacrifice a good story in the name of continuity? And so that's always a question. But yeah, those are my thoughts coming out of Republic Under Siege number 4. I'll throw it to you. What do you think of this one?
Oh, I thought it was a brilliant issue. I love how each one of these finales to their own respective arcs have been very, very climactic, very epic in scale with starships, with personal conflicts, people getting literally stabbed in the back, basically. Um, this is a brilliant, brilliant move because it's like Adelhard, man. He stood up against Luke Skywalker. He stood up against a bunch of these ragtag New Republic ships, able to, hold this tension, this tight iron grip on this section of the galaxy. Mm. And the one place he doesn't expect to lose is because of his own person in the bed. Like, it's like, wow, that is such a Thrawn thing, right? Like, sure. Like Rook killing Thrawn, right? I haven't read that story in 20 years. I think that's what happened.
Yeah.
It's like these big Imperials, they don't have the vision to see like behind them, essentially, to be like, oh crap, I just got played. And the fact that she like just berates him at the end and says like, you seriously thought you were something? Like, you were never part of the plan. You were just some guy that was causing a distraction. Like, the way he was just put down, like, this guy is just, he's a loser. Like, after all this, he is just a freaking loser. And the way he gets sent off to his death is one of the most brutal death scenes in a Star Wars story. Just, put him in an escape pod, jettison toward the planet, and they just plummet to their impending doom.
Yeah. That
was brutal as heck. Like, dang. But we're like seeing Luke Skywalker leading a bunch of rabble ships, including Giala and Byler and Valance there, just like, we're going to do this. And they're just like, wait, this was too easy, Yeah. So there's a lot of good stuff there. Seeing Mon Mothma recovering from injuries, seeing an Admiral Akbar and Leia and Luke all in this holograms. Like, this is a really cool planning scene where they know about the Battle of Jakku is impending. So much good stuff heading into this finale. I cannot wait for these 4 issues. So I did really enjoy it.
Yeah, I agree. And welcome Tyler there. I agree. It was an exciting issue. It was an exciting comic book. Really exciting 4-issue arc here of, I mean, that is true. The Republic, they have their backs to the wall. And Mon Mothma and Mon Mothma, and I forget who comes to her and tells her that spy or intelligence agent is being killed. Real stakes, real threats coming from from Adelhard. But I mean, remember the Trandoshan that comes in. It's not Bosk. I thought it was Bosk. The Trandoshan that comes in, we got to remember, is part of the Kijimi group, Spice Runners. So like they say something like Spice Runner. So all these things are building up and shifting, and there is definitely a feel of Alex Agur has done a great job of building this feel towards this Battle of Jakku, the road to the Battle of Jakku, and here we are effectively with that intelligence briefing, as you said. So I gotta say though, again, focusing on Adelhard, it's wild. Just yet again, it's almost like he's the main character of this book in a way. He's at least the most interesting.
I appreciate that because my last favorite leader of an Imperial group was Commander Zara. I hated to see her die the way she did, but I thought she was really compelling for this female officer that was just had like the grit of Tarkin, the protege of Tarkin, even had the scars to prove it on her own capital ship. Like, what a great character. So Adelhard is up there with one of these original comic Imperial officers, although he did come from the game first, but hey, he's been fleshed out wonderfully by Alex first and foremost in this series. So we can call him a comic original character effectively. Right? So there you go. Any last thoughts before we move on to the next book? All right, let's do it. Let's get there. Ewoks number 3 that came out today. Written by Steve Orlando, art by Alvaro Lopez and Laura Braga, colors by Antonio Fabela, and cover by Pete Woods. The Imperials continue the invasion of Endor, with Wicket captured and forced to guide the Imperial scouting party through Endor. The other Ewoks must form a party of their own to get him back.
Warrior Midro and the mysterious red ghost may be the only hope for the young Ewok. What horrors await both teams at the sight of the Imperial weapons cache? I'll throw this one to you. What did you think of Ewoks number 3?
Oh man, world building, lore building, whatever one you call it. I freaking love this because, oh my goodness, Endor and this miniseries has been fleshed out wonderfully.
Yeah.
Pulling things from Legends, pulling things from George Lucas's TV movies of Caravan of Courage and the Battle of Endor. All these different creatures, even from the SNES, the Super Nintendo. There was these freaking condor dragons you would fight in the old little Super Nintendo game back in the day, throwing them in canon. Like, there's just so many good things. Even the Aurochs or whatever they are, the horse ram things are riding through in Caravan of Courage. We got a name for them now. Yeah. But it's just a pure adventure story this time around. It's a pure adventure. Get to the point. Got to go from point A to point B. You got some reluctant Imperials. You got to cross a lake. There's terrors in the lake, but we also had the quiet moments that I really appreciated with the Bright Tree Village. I'm assuming that's where they were. Yeah. Where the Red Ghost is there, Midro is there, and a bunch of the Ewoks are having these, discussions of what to do next. And I liked seeing how the way their system works with these people saying, "Hey, we need to do this," or "We need to do that." Like, so just getting the culture of the Ewoks was enough for me. And then, of course, like, nice big cliffhanger at the end there. But yeah, this was definitely another fun one here. Wicket, I realized that Wicket did talk basic in the Battle of Endor movie, so that wasn't done here first, but it is kind of interesting to see an Ewok talking broken basic, I guess you could call it. So it was pretty fun. It was pretty fun. Nothing incredibly deep, but that's not what you expect from a book like this. This is just a fun little offshoot of the Battle of Jakku, essentially. Like, okay, what's going on? We have this scout trooper that says he's good at finding where he needs to go. You got this general that is so up his butt, like, with everything going on. Like, this guy doesn't have a clue. But I really like the Duwatan character and Xav or whatever the droid is. I hate when they spell it out. I wish they would just, write the letters and the initials there, but it is what it is. Yeah, it was a good one. It was a good one.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised that they didn't seed basic speaking Ewoks into the Lego special, right? But they're all That would have been fun. Maybe not. That would have been a little too. Starship flying Ewok bounty hunters is already enough. But never mind. For the most part, I agree that it's just fun, straightforward adventure. Seeing the Gorax at the end. Yeah. It is interesting that you have a whole world to build out that we've never really seen in canon. Yeah. So why not go to all this stuff that's being developed beforehand? Tap into the fandom of it, tap into the enjoyment of it, and also just the weirdness and the wildness of it. That's really depicting a planet that is full of terrors and full of creatures, and it takes a civilization as intelligent as Ewoks to be able to live and thrive on this planet. They aren't as technologically advanced, and so they have to be smarter. And we see that especially with Midro and Red Ghost planning things through. We see that with Wicket knowing his way through, and this. I found the most interesting part of this dialogue with the Duwatan character, trying to question. Well, like X7 initiates and says, we're not really thrilled that this is happening. Kind of stuck here on this contract and this paycheck. I'm wondering how this all ends up. The Gorax is going to do some damage.
Oh yeah,
there. But in terms of this Duwatan character, I forget his name. What effect Wicket is going to have? And so, I agree. Loving just the look inside these Ewok characters. We get a hint of it in Return of the Jedi, right? Like, we know there's a little bit more than there's. Well, the whole point is that there's more than meets the eye. There, and Luke is able to actually see that, and of course Leia is definitely able to see that firsthand. But here we're seeing it firsthand, and that's really great job by Steve Orlando. I'm glad they at least translate into basic as well. Don't make it kind of D Squad. I love that comic by Mark Guggenheim, but a lot of words and boops and all that was just a little interesting to read. This one is a little easier. So there we go. And I guess issue number 4 is the last issue, I'm guessing. But also, let's say one thing to say. This is a tie-in to. This is connected to Battle of Jakku.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what happens to these characters if Adelhard is not calling the shots, right?
That's what I was about to say. I'm saying I think it's gonna line up where they're like, the guy's dead. What do we do now?
Dead or crashed and trying to figure it out. But so another interesting layer to this comic book in that sense. Any more thoughts before we go back in time?
Yep, time to activate the warp device to go back into the High Republic.
Yes, we're going all the way back to the 3 High Republic Adventures books written by Daniel Jose Older this week. He was busy this week. There we go. This is first of High Republic Adventures number 13, written by Daniel Jose Older, art by Caio Felipe, colors by Michael Attier, and cover by Harvey and Kevin Tolebao. Padawan Ram Jamaram and Jedi Knight Farzala Tarabel have begun gathering brave fighters to repel the Nihil invasion of Valo, but uniting the war-weary people to defend their home is proving to be a battle all its own. Will the Jedi and their allies be able to inspire a resistance in the face of such destruction? Meanwhile, a shocking discovery on Ariado inflames tensions. I'll admit this is one of the ones I read it, was able to read it a few days ago thanks to Dark Horse. Trouble kind of remembering some of the details of it. What I do remember especially is, and when I would look back and read it again tonight, is the ending. And the ending, credit to Caio Felipe and Michael Attier for really crafting an ending. It feels like an exciting cinematic escape. It feels like they're under fire and they got to get out off the planet. And so, that was one of those great experiences of reading a comic that feels like a show, kind of maybe the goal a little bit. And just also this one more exciting. Maybe you'll be able to jog my memory a little more, but a more exciting comic book story, culminating in this. I mean, I have liked this pocket of story. On Valo that concludes everything, from Escape from Valo, especially these younger characters that we met, and of course Ram. Got to be Knight Ram coming up soon.
Seriously.
And so just that uprising, that city is now finally being able to hopefully kick the Nihil out. The warden, he's definitely Ram blew up the stinking tower. He blew up Crash Point Tower just to prevent the communication. It was the previous issue. And so a good quality, especially that exciting ending, good quality wrap up to this arc on Valo, going straight into the wedding spectacular, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. But first off, what did you think of High Republic Adventures number 13?
Oh, I really enjoyed this, Matthew. I think this was a great act for DJO and team there on creating this one, because there's a lot of depth to this issue. I was able to mine into. First of all, like the personal relationships. I mean, we get this character back from Escape from Valo, a little scoundrel wannabe Han Solo type.
That's right.
Zabrak named Zeen Kyle. And his mother,
they're on the cover.
yeah, they're on there, and their mother comes into the story, and it's this great life lesson that I was able to really get into, because I remember this happening all the time, like telling your parents where you go. And these are for all ages, so there should be a motif, or a theme, or some lesson that these kids learn from reading these comics. And as long and short of it is like, Zeen was going around the galaxy doing all this crazy stuff, and their mother was just simply like, you gotta check in with me. I think you might be God forbid you're dead or something, like check. And it reminds me of my time, going around the neighborhood on my bike, my skateboard, being out until dark, who knows when. Parents are worried, sick, like, where are you? You got to check in every once in a while, So that was good. And teach the kids, like, it's good to go out and hang with your friends, but nowadays we have cell phones, so it's way easier to connect. Back then we didn't have cell phones, so it's just like you show up when you show up. But it's good. But I'm getting into more stuff here because we have the thing with Farzala and getting the Star Hopper back, which is very sentimental to the younglings. Yoda training on there, getting something back that you've been fighting for that was lost and having it taken away from you. And then like that sentimentality and that possessiveness of the Jedi should be not really be focused so much on possession, like your possessions going missing, because that could lead to the dark side and all those sort of things. So the passion that you have for something like that goes unchecked if you're just too crazy about it. So I like to see the foreshadowing there of just like the anger building up and like the worry going and like and then the whole idea of a rebellion. It's like you mentioned it. It's great that the people of Valo are finally like teaming up with the Jedi and saying enough and no Nihil, no more Nihil, no more Nihil. That was great to see them sticking it to the man. And huge Avengers moment because you have you have Farzala, you have Ram and Zeen and her mother, and it's like the Na'ar are just kind of laughing like, yeah, you guys are Jedi, but you're no match for how many people we have. And that's when the door comes down and in comes Maz Kanata, Dexter Jexter, Lavalox Verzine, who was the guy that was being mimicked by Tara Sinube back in the day. You have Sav Maligan is back in action. Therm Scissor punches in this one. You got Dern back in. I love those two guys running around just being little spies trying to see what's going on. But it was awesome because you had some really kick-ass action sequences I would love to see in animation of you got Dexter just quad wielding blaster pistols in every direction firing, and you got the pirate Jedi Sav Maligan just wiping the floor with the Nihil. And the one thing I did have an issue with is the framing of the last couple pages and the story overall, because they're flying in on a Star Hopper. They see people on the roof fighting, and they're like, "Oh, there goes Gavi and the others. Let's go down and get them." So they all jump out of. This is what I gathered, and maybe you can help me. Maybe I'm missing something. They all jumped out of the Star Hopper, so there's nobody piloting it or on the ship anymore. I guess it's just hovering there. And then they're like, "Oh wait, how do we get back onto the ship?" It's like, you dummies, you just jumped out of the ship, like. And then Matt, they're like, "What do we do?" And then Maz comes in and gets them to go on their ship. Meanwhile, Farzal was like, "Wait, what about our ship?" And then the general like hijacks their ship and flies away to Iriadu. So I'm like, how could they be so dumb? Like, you guys just like abandon your own ship and then you get it stolen by the general. Maybe I'm missing something, but I had to look it over like 3 or 4 times to understand what was happening.
That's funny. I missed that entirely. I'm just so enthralled and excited by this moment that it's like, okay. I can kind of see them all wanting to spring into action. Yes, they were outnumbered by the Nihil, and so they need all hands on deck. Yeah, okay. I guess they take the ship away again.
Oh wait, oh crap, there goes our ship. Whoops.
Yep. I was also, friggin' Dexter Jetster coming back. I'm always excited about that. So
I know
what happened there. And just all the dank racks. There we go. They didn't think twice. They were on the jet. So memory re-engaged here. Yeah, definitely. So I guess a few things about the Star Hopper, right? That the thing about High Republic is Jedi are able to engage in these feelings of having a home, like Ram and Gavi on Valo, right? Having these attachments without them taking over, right? You have with Lula and Lula and Zeen, but Lula's master on Naboo, that whole story being part of their service to the light. And that's kind of the point, is they're foreshadowing that later on that becomes a problem, culminating, of course, with Anakin. So it's an interesting kind of before image, but also the foreshadowing there. The Starhopper and Farzala having this connection, everything with Fallow, and kicking the Nile off Fallow finally. That's the thing, is there is very much a sense of this is coming to an end. And I think about Tempest Breaker. Tempest Breaker is really the final season premiere, and so here we have High Republic Adventures also really wrapping things up. I mean, that's the thing a final season premiere can do, wrap everything up in order to push towards the ending, towards the grand finale. And so that also comes into play with the Starhopper, with the Dank Grax, right? In phase 2 is the folks opposing the Dank Grax and trying to deal with the bounty hunter group, including Maz and Dexter and them, and Sav, who tags along. So it's great to see all of that coming in. Again, this is the penultimate arc in this comic book, and so to see to wrap those up, bring it all together, everyone's coming together for the end. So only a few months to go. There you go. Any further thoughts on this one before we move on? There we go. We got to move on very quickly. Right after this, it's High Republic Adventures: The Wedding Spectacular, written by Daniel Jose Older, art by Caio Felipe. I have this all written out. I don't have there. I have it down here. Believe me.
A lot of artists. I think every artist that ever worked on the High Republic Adventures in this.
Pretty much everyone, maybe, and then some. This is written by Daniel Jose Older again. Art by Caio Felipe, Michael Attier, Andy Duggan, Joe McYoung, Tony Bruno, Megan Huang, Nick Brokenshire, Elisa Bomboli. Colors by Michael Attier, Vladimir Popov, Dan Jackson, Nicola Riggi, and cover by Edmonton's Sheriel. Of course, shout out to Toronto's Megan Wong in there. I don't need to do that just yet. Save the date. Guests from across the galaxy are arriving on Ariadu to witness Lula Talasola and Zeen Morala, the young freedom fighters who are championing the resistance against the Nile. Join hands in marriage. Friends and family from throughout the High Republic will be joining in the celebration of light, life, and love. You won't want to miss it, so RSVP soon. Just know that the dress code calls for ball gowns as well as blaster rifles, because war could break out at any moment. An iconic High Republic Adventures moment, years in the making. You won't want to miss it. I'm tasting the cake, the wedding cake right now. Smells funky. I'll throw it to you. What did you think of this book?
Oh yeah, this book was an interesting one for me. Yeah. This was an interesting one for me because it's like, all right, it's cool. Like DJO, like this guy's the king, the keys to the kingdom. Whatever story he wants to make with the High Republic Adventures, I'm sure Lucasfilms has like, just go ahead, do it. Just go ahead, do it. And I feel like this was his pie in the sky moment. But like, I just feel like doing like a wedding thing. Okay, I did a bake-off thing before. Let's do a wedding thing now. The long and short of it is this is just an avenue. This is just a plot device to get everybody into one spot for the Battle of Ariadu, essentially. Right. Like, because, and that's where I have problems with it. It's like, okay, it's space fantasy, but you're gonna have a wedding now. Like, now is the time you're gonna call. They're breaking the rules a little bit because it's like, oh, by the way, Yaddle just flew in from the occlusion zone. Like,
right. What?
Like, why isn't the whole Republic just coming in and just doing the same thing, wiping out all the Nile right now? Like, that just irks me. Like the continuity, whatever you want to call it, the logistics of it just seem like all thought went out the window, unfortunately. And it just seems too much when it's like, did you have to have Yaddle there? I guess they have to have her there for the Battle of Ariadu. But yeah, it just seemed like it was cool. Like the execution, the artwork was amazing. I love that the dialogue was very sweet. Even getting the message from Bucket of Blood, and then Lula's master showing up at one point. The Jedi Knight. What's their name again?
Oh my goodness, I gotta Google this.
Yeah, the non-binary Jedi
master, not Comac.
No, not.
Kentum Sai.
There we go. Cantham. And then you have a really cool moment with Emerick Caphtor, a hot and steamy moment between Emerick Caphtor and Sion. I was like, whoa, things are getting kind of frisky right now. And then they get, it was like the C-3PO and Han and Leia moment where Lula or Zeen pop in at the last moment. It's like, oh, whoops. I'm just standing here. The Jedi, they can have tendencies too from time to time. And it's funny to see Emerick Caphtor, especially as we'll talk about how serious it is in the next issue, to have this vulnerability where like he loses his speech and he's like caught off guard. And he's like, I'm thinking about you. Yeah. It's just like this really like this shy Jedi that's very powerful, but at a moment of like passion and stuff, he's just like he's losing his train of thought. I love that little vulnerability. And like Maz Kanata officiating a wedding, I was like, okay, this is crazy Star Wars fan fiction we're getting here right now.
Yeah,
that's what it came off to me.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, that's kind of the part of the point, like you said, with the Bake Off, right? Just do something ridiculous, do something fun. The wedding itself, the fact that they're getting married. I mean, okay, in the middle of a war, I can kind of see it. I can kind of see them wanting to steal the deal before, because you don't know what's going to happen, right?
True.
So kind of this, they're young, they're in the hype of this. Was really well built up to this moment in the High Republic Adventures main run. Just everything with that issue with the proposal. Of course, obviously you're gonna do this, obviously you're gonna do that, and so that part of it, I didn't mind as much. It is funny thinking about Emerick and Lula. Emerick is still a master. He's full on there with what's her name, the inspector that he goes on with. I'm looking at her name there. The woman he's with there, but anyway.
Sion? Wait.
Yeah, Sion. Yeah, sure. From she's the inspector that he teams up with.
Yeah.
In phase 1 there, but he's still a master. He hasn't left the order, whereas Lula has. And now, of course, for a master to leave the order, as we'll see in a few short months, is a bigger deal. But Lula as a Padawan to leave the order, it's not as big of a deal. But here, Emerick can't really get married in that sense. Then that's, I think, at least thinking about what celibacy really means. It just means kind of these arrangements of attachments. But Lula can. Here's her wedding with Zeen, and I found it overall, though the story was interesting. I kind of actually wished it was a bit more of a calm before the storm, a bit more of a set piece.
Okay.
Just a pause before the battle. I get there was a little bit of that, but it felt more disjointed than I wanted, and I think the biggest reason for that is they actually, I mean, I think they were trying an experiment here of getting all these artists in like a page, and if even were for breaking up a line of dialogue between two different artists, we'll try that and see what happens. And I just don't think it worked. It landed as well as it could. It was an interesting idea. I think it just made it feel disjointed, and I had to think, oh no, wait, this is the exact same. It's just a continuation of the same scene. It's just they look very different. That's the funny thing about a comic book medium. It's how it works. But
I'll be honest with you. Until you just said it right now, I actually didn't ever get taken out of the experience once. Reading the comic, looking at the artwork, it flowed pretty seamless to me. Actually, I could have been fooled. I guess I was so like into the story.
Yeah.
That it didn't affect me as much as maybe you did. Another thing to note, another character coming back from phase 1 was the little Chadrafan doctor, named Uttersound, right? Kisma Uttersound. So that was cool, and he was crazy getting the thermal detonators a shot explode, and that was interesting.
Yeah, I mean those kinds of Nile characters ruining this party, almost ruining it. Yeah. again, it was a fun issue. I didn't mind it. I just think they didn't. Yeah, I felt it was just the art made it a bit disjointed, but yeah, that good that everyone's there and ready to go. I do. I mean, again, I get why you're saying it was a bit of a plot device, but they've got to have known that everything was massing and almost an excuse to get through. Maybe it's how they booked passage to the occlusion zone. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, that is another question. It is getting easier and easier. They are understanding the path engine more. Maybe that's part of it.
Yeah.
Be able to replicate things better. Who knows? They haven't explained that as well, but maybe that's one of the kind of sleights of hand in phase 3, which is all on the whole so spectacular. This one's little logistical sleight of hand that the beginning real tension of phase 3 with the storm wall isn't as big of an issue. I think the way it functions here is actually to make Ariado this focal point, and that's what's interesting about this issue. Again, it's this beeline right to the end of this final chapter in issues 14 to 17 and beyond. We'll get to that in a bit. And where it sits. So again, it's this one shot wedding spectacular. Just like there's gonna be another Crash Wong one shot coming up. So it was a fun idea. I don't know.
It's really impressive because as I'm looking at the artwork right now, it's the crowd scenes, the amount of characters that are in these images is just mind-blowing. Literally mind-blowing, because I'm looking through, it's like, where's Waldo? I'm seeing characters that I didn't see before, like the Nautilin that was the female Nautilin that was featured earlier with the prison break stuff. She's in the back there. You got Severin, you got the buddy of court that still has the headgear on. She's in there. You have so many characters where you really feel like the High Republic Adventures in its own entity is its own little universe. You see characters coming and going, characters floating in between different issues, different stories, but I like the connectivity. I really do.
Yeah, again, it underscores that this is building to the grand finale. And that, in a significant way. So is a question, any of the story group. I don't know, Tyler, did you like kind of characters drawn like the story group? That'd be funny. I mean, I wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me if they did that. There we go. All right. Any last thoughts before we get to our last book of the day?
No, let's go for it.
Let's go. So I realize we probably should have done this one before, now that I think about it, because Emerick is in that one. But here we are. Finally, Dispatches from the Occlusion Zone number 3, also written by Daniel Zolder, art by Lucas Marangon, colors by Dan Jackson, and cover by Jake Bartok. Great to see him continuing on here. Jedi Master and expert investigator Emerick Caphtor seeks the true nature of the Nameless. To help him solve the mystery of the Force Eaters, Emerick has brought on a Nihil prisoner of war with knowledge of the creatures. Together, the unlikely duo crosses the volcanic landscape of a distant moon in search of answers. Will the Jedi's traveling companion prove to be a liability or an asset on this treacherous journey? And like I said, this is one I actually have maybe the best memory of because I just read it last night. I was really impressed by how serious Niv Drendow Apruk is in this. I found him pretty serious, and it goes into his backstory here on Tarnum, the planet where the barren moon where Baron Bulan put up shop, and going into kind of the memory of this character, but also his attachment to the Nameless. And it's fascinating how it's his attachment to the Nameless is what's getting now to be willing to work with the Jedi, to be a prisoner of war, if you will. It's pretty clever by Emerick to actually get himself captured so he can get down, knowing he'd be able to handle whatever came his way. I'm guessing this is before he ends up going back to Ariado. But it was again, to see Drendow grow up, and again, in the face of what maybe clearly he has a sense that something's wrong with the Nameless, that they are suffering. One of the questions I have about, say, Tempest Breaker and about this, thinking about Echoes or Tears of the Nameless and Echoes of Fear, this definitely brings to mind what Reith had discovered about with the Ptolemites, right? That the Nameless are themselves tortured by being off of their planet, and I can see Nev Drendow wanting to guide them home and wanting to actually take care of them. He seems to have a more genuine attachment than Baron Bulan does, for sure. I mean, where Bulan ends up in Tempest Breakers is incredible and fascinating. But yeah, and I really enjoyed this aspect of it, and then them talking about Drigget and how she it's even furthering that story, of course, with Daniel Older writing that the High Republic Adventures, yes, with Alyssa Wong's short story, even moving Drigget's story forward, which we'll get to her in a second again, but to say, these allegiances, these loyalties coming to the fore. And what's interesting, this is a very important Star Wars theme, in that especially at the end of the original trilogy era, in the Galactic Civil War, you could have had bounty hunters and pirates in them. This is Ethan Sachs' comic hints at this. Alyssa Wong's Dr. Aphra comic hints at this a little bit. You could have had these Underworld characters kind of in the middle, say we're kind of out for our own good, we're only out for ourselves, we're not too thrilled with the Empire. Nev Drendow here not terribly thrilled with the Nihil anymore, but because everything is reaching a fever pitch in this confrontation, he has to pick a side, and it seems like he's picking the Nameless.
Yeah,
interestingly enough, but in a way that is actually closer to the light side. Whereas Drigget, we saw in previous stories, she's actually picking a side. I mean, she's picking Ballo in there. So,
more than anything else. Yeah,
and so there's another interesting thing is, Lena So saying we're all the Republic, and saying that's actually the goal and the focus is for everyone to come together, but for people to appreciate where they come from and having a place to call home. And maybe that's more than confrontations. Maybe that's the theme of these three books here, these few books here. Just like Farzala saying, that ship was his home. Nev Drendow saying, wherever the Nameless are at peace, maybe that's his home. And so maybe Emerick, maybe the Jedi are able to be the ones to carry this forward. Also, as I just mentioned, Midnight Horizon, but the comic book that Emerick in phase one, with their
Trail Shadows.
Yeah, to see him, he's still on the trail, and that's good to pick that up because we haven't seen that much. That was again another example of things in phase one coming back here as we break for the end. Another great example of that. So that's my thoughts on HRA Dispatches number 3. What did you think of this one?
Yeah, this one was a pretty good one. I liked all the callbacks to phase 1. Rant Tarnum was the planet that Yoda went to that had the secrets where he ended up finding one of the Echo Stones, one of the rods.
That's also why it sounds familiar.
Okay. Yep, that was in the first arc, I believe. We also get to see from the first arc Mark Rose official dropship at one point, like the big arachnid type of ship, which, oh my gosh, that one page is so imposing. Like its claws are poised to grab and grapple his little ship there, Emmerick's not Starhopper, the Vector. Yeah. The Vector ship there.
Vector, yeah.
Yeah, and it was neat because we got to see, wild charhounds. We were used to seeing Bell and his little charhound there.
Yeah.
What's the charhound's name?
Blanking on the name. Yeah.
Whatever.
We haven't seen Bell in a long time. Just thinking about that.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Bell
He's not in the comics really ever.
No.
He's just more of like a novel character for the most part.
Yeah.
So but yeah, him and Buryaga both are just like usually only in the. But it was cool. It was cool getting at what I was saying in my review on my channel is it's nice that we're getting all these nameless answers like happening in different stories. Like for instance, like Reith and Amadeo and Comac are cracking the code on where to find the Echo Stone to like lead the nameless back to the planet. And here we have Emerick, and I was talking about this before. Like Emerick is his ability to be persuasive and win Niv Drendow Apruk onto his side, and then finding out a way to bypass the nebula on Planet X, allegedly. So that's really useful because it seems like once you go, you can't come back unless you're a Nihil, I guess, that they have a way of doing, I guess, Path Engine or whatever. But yeah, not too much more to say on this, but it was cool to see more Emerick because he's definitely one of my favorite characters as like an investigator Jedi that really has a good head on his shoulders. And I think at one point there was like a reference to him, like maybe it was another story about like, oh yeah, I'm like the guy said, "Are you serious?" He's like, "Yeah, I never joke. I'm always serious," or something like that. Was that in this book? It was a nice little
was in this one. Yeah,
like I don't make jokes. I'm not funny. I'm pretty serious. So no.
Sarcasm. Got a little bit of sarcasm here in Star Wars. All right. We got moving along. We got some breaking news. Before we have a bit of news. We're getting to the Sequel Trilogy Appreciation. We got some breaking news. This was just a few hours ago. Dark Horse. Speaking of High Republic Adventures, speaking of Ariado, speaking of Drigget Parse,
speaking of another one shot,
we've got announcement of the High Republic Adventures Phase 3, the Battle of Ariado. Now this was revealed at New York Comic Con. I don't quite remember. Oh yes, I wasn't in that.
You weren't in the room.
I was watching Star Trek. So there we go. But yeah, so Alyssa Wong is writing this story. I'll get this cover up here.
Oh, it's so badass.
Whose covers? This is by. Trying to think. Let's see. Cover art by Jake Bartok. There we go. Here he is again.
Oh, there he goes.
Very distinctive style there. And there's Drigget and there's Gavi. And here's Alyssa Wong. You know, we met them in Escape from Valo. We followed them from their individual journeys across Dispatches 2 and High Republic Adventures, the annual, Breaking the Mask Insider short story.
Star Wars Insider, yeah.
Spectacular, fun story, great story. So in this one shot, it says we'll draw all these pieces together for the finale of their character arcs and sort of how much you're willing to sacrifice for revenge, what it means to let go of the ones you love. And it's fascinating because we don't, in Escape from Valo, they're described as, they're two peas in a pod, and they'd even dress up as each other, right? And so here we're actually seeing their hair, we're seeing their face. This was an attachment that they had with each other as basically as siblings, and they've sort of found themselves on opposite sides of this Nihil Republic conflict. Again, as I just mentioned, Drigget, she's really fighting for Valo. I'm wondering, like, how deep does the cover go that she has to end up in this conflict with Gavi? Because she's at the right hand of the article says, she's at the right hand of the Warden. That's how she's ending up on Ariado there. And so, this is another one of these pockets of story throughout these different media of High Republic that has been really well crafted, really well put together, especially Drigget. Especially that insider short, really diving into where we do finally see her true motivations. really diving into what she cares about and what she's again willing to do, willing to push. And so this is also this recap of when I guess she thought she'd killed him with her knife, but then somehow he got through. Am I remembering that correctly? So really exciting. And yeah, so this comes out April 30th, 2025. So pretty darn close to the end. This seems like a one shot that'll come out after maybe part of the battle of Reyna, clearly. But yeah, definitely definitely exciting. Also, you say should read the story in the upcoming annual. That's good to know too. So there we go. I'm guessing that's also Drigget and Gavi coming up. Yeah, because I mean, it mentions
completely forgot about the annual
High Republic Adventures annual. And like Alyssa telling us this too. So yeah, thanks Tyler for that tip too as well. So yeah, breaking news. Chris, what do you think of this?
Yeah, the first thing is like, all right, you know, I learned as you aforementioned that I was in the room when they announced this thing. They showed off some artwork, I think, from this very story. It looked grand. They looked epic in every way you would expect for something called the Battle of Iriadu. We've been pointing the direction of this big conflict happening for months now.
Yeah,
we're still gonna have to wait months, but I can see from the background of the cityscape, just absolute chaos, laser bolts going in every which direction. I'm just so excited to see all these characters, as we were just alluding to, like all these characters in one spot. Just the breadth of the wideness of all the characters at risk. There could be people that could die in this. I mean, look at this cover; it's so kinetic. You have Drigget, you have Gavi, like a fear in his eye, like, oh no, what's gonna happen? There's so much. I love it. I like how we're gonna get extra pages. This is a one shot. It's gonna be a little bit bigger than your usual comics, so they could really fit in a lot of great. Hopefully, get some really, I would imagine, really good character moments for both of them, but a wider look at what's happening as well.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, and I know Alyssa will be able to do it, but to have this very intense character story in the midst of this wider battle, right? I mean, DJO is handling the wider battle as we've seen, but definitely this is going to have to connect to that somehow. And like you're alluding to with the internal art and everything else going on. Yeah, again, that's another strong suit of High Republic overall, is their ability to tell these pockets of story that do connect and that are part of that wider story. So looking forward to this one as well. All right, I'm gonna bring this back down. We got one more story. Going back to Marvel, and well ahead in time. Put your time machine on. Going well ahead in time. This is for Sequel Trilogy Appreciation Day. Is something on the Underworld Network. We're just celebrating the Sequel Trilogy. I'm wearing my Last Jedi shirt. There we go. And so Chelly shows up in the Sequel Trilogy. Why not? But great timing, because Charles Soule went to IGN, the online outlet, and to talk about Legacy of Vader. And so there's that article. You can find it if you Google it. There you go. A few things I read today. A few interesting things about what he says about this comic. Of course, it's set between Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker, about Kylo Ren as Supreme Leader, reflecting on his grandfather's legacy and his importance to him and to his leadership of the First Order and the heritage of the dark side, etc. And I found, and he was mentioning, well, what Charles Soule was saying. I found a lot of story beats for Kylo that mirror his grandpa's comics, especially the comic book beats. The aftermath of Rey's rejection, like Greg Pak dealing with the aftermath of Luke's rejection. Found just the whole thing throughout all of Vader's comics. This journey to find mentorship and guidance. Kylo Ren is going on this journey to find this guidance while also having to put a stamp on the galaxy as Supreme Leader. that kind of made me think of, Vader's quest to find himself, to supplant Palpatine, but also to get his approval, especially the Charles Soule comic, when he's just starting out there as a Dark Lord of the Sith. The biggest one is this core story focus on, on Kylo Ren's failed attempt to forget, and is grappling with the Ben Solo within him. And it made me really see, just like talk about Vader as the failed attempt to forget Anakin. Kylo Ren, I think Charles is going to write this story as the failed attempt to forget Ben Solo. And of course, The Last Jedi showed that more clearly, I think, than Empire Strikes Back. But Return of the Jedi definitely brought it to the fore. And so, to dig in deeper. And Charles, he's really good at taking something we get in the film and just pushing forward, pushing in. Again, that 2017 Vader comic, the greatest of all time, my favorite of all time. A few interesting things that are maybe different from what Vader would do. So there's a lot more First Order politics. He's Supreme Leader, and he also has to contend with Hux nipping at his heels. He mentions pride. I don't know. He hints at pride might not be in this comic, but definitely the politics swirling around. He has, like Mon Mothma says to his mom, we're forming a government. He has a government to lead, even though he's also hunting down this history of the dark side. Well, Vader didn't have to concern himself so much with Imperial politics, although we have Ochi, we have Sly Moore, we have Sabe, and so many others trying to entangle him in it. This is kind of me bringing that thought to the article. But yeah, definitely a bit more of the inner workings of the First Order here. That Kylo Ren as Supreme Leader, which again isn't as imprinted in our minds, I think, because we're so used to Snoke. We're introduced to the idea of the Supreme Leader as Snoke, and so of course, at the end of The Last Jedi, Kylo Ren becomes the Supreme Leader, and yes, in Rise of Skywalker he is, but even then, Palpatine's still the big bad. He's overshadowed still, and so this will be his time to shine in this comic book. So that's the Charles Soule article or interview article, and of course my take on it, my thoughts on it. Anything other stand out to you, strike you about this comic book?
Oh, that's great, because I haven't read the article, but hearing about the politics definitely piques my interest, because it's kind of strange how all of a sudden he's a Supreme Leader at the end and he just gets to do whatever he wants. Seems like there's no pushback whatsoever on what he's doing. This headstrong young lad that is just taking stuff by force. Yeah, so I'm very curious to see like this hierarchy of the First Order, perhaps with Hux and whoever else may be around, and seeing like what they might be objecting to based on his demands. See any power struggles between certain characters. Maybe there's going to be new characters that are introduced to kind of really take it to Kylo a little bit. And yeah, I mean, it's great to see that through line connected with the familial pattern of, okay, Vader did this. Well, Kylo is also kind of dealing with the same thing. I like how they can draw a line between the two characters, since they are related. Star Wars rhymes quite a bit, so it makes a lot of sense to see similarities between characters. They're not going to be direct, but it is really cool. And yeah, I was thinking about this earlier, just the idea of like, the sequel trilogy will be pretty well fleshed out now, because we have the Poe Dameron comics, which took place before Force Awakens going into Last Jedi. This will essentially pick up the torch and carry it from Last Jedi through Rise of Skywalker. So it'll be nice to now finally have like a full ongoing series of comics to take us through basically the entirety of the sequel trilogy, as short of a span of time as it is.
That's true. Because you think, Force Last Jedi starts just as Force Awakens ends. So there's no gap there. So it is the whole gamut. one thing, thinking I've picked up on these similarities, and because it's Legacy of Vader, the task at hand is to say this isn't just another Vader comic; it's a Kylo Ren story with Vader's shadow and him grappling with that. That still needs to be the focus, and so I'll be watching to see. I hope it doesn't feel as much like a rehash. That's the one maybe concern I have hearing all this. Like what he's a different character. I mean, that's the thing. And everything Adam Driver did was perfect and so spot on. And so, and just the character himself. And so, definitely, doesn't need the mask. It's almost to say the mask is more of a Ben Solo thing in a way than a Kylo Ren thing, because once this is the thought. I'm just kind of thinking here. I mean that Snoke looks at him and says, "Take that stupid ridiculous mask off."
Sure.
Yeah, this overcompensation, this attempt to stamp out Ben Solo, whereas without the mask, there's no need to stamp out anything. You're just there as Kylo Ren, and more secure in that identity, to use that kind of psychological language. But clearly he isn't, and that's why he has the mask. That's why it's shattered, and it's why he has to go and learn about Grandpa. And we know the way he reads that story is, of course, the opposite from the way George Lucas reads that story. The opposite from the way it actually is. He believes that Anakin is a failure by not actually continuing the Sith and not continuing to grab hold of the Force to the dark side by returning to the light. And so this will be that confrontation with that. So everything that's great about a Vader story, everything hopefully great about a Kylo Ren story, how Charles and everyone brings the two together, very curious and intrigued by. So looking forward to this book tremendously, as I'm guessing you are as well. There you go.
Oh
yeah. All right. Well, I think that does it. I think we got all the way through 5 books. There we go. Next week, where did I find this? Next week we're rolling right along. Battle of Jakku: Last Stand, but it's also Christmas Day, and so scheduled to come out. Comics come out on Wednesdays. Christmas Day is on Wednesday. I suspect comic book shops may or may not be open Wednesday. Likely be open Boxing Day. Some good stores probably have some good Boxing Day sales. So get out, support local, buy this comic book. It'll be worth your while. Whenever day your comic book shop is open, give them a call. Ask them. I'm serious. If you want to go and go support local, give them a call. Ask them if they're open Christmas Day. If they're going to get their books in. We know Diamond is being Diamond these days, but maybe Penguin Random House is not being like Diamond these days. Who knows? But already here. Last Stand #1. What about this are you looking forward to?
I mean, I just like the title itself, like Last Stand. That has it has gravity. It has gravitas to the title. Like, this is something to look forward to. There's a lot happening as Aftermath fan, as a fan of Battlefront 2's video game, as a fan of, this is going to be big. This is going to be big. Seeing how the big three piece into the Battle of Jakku, right? Han Solo. I'm still waiting for Han Solo to show up. He's coming. I can feel it. He's coming in with Chewie, the Falcon. We're gonna have Luke there in the X-wing. It's gonna be like good old times, right? Them flying wingmates together, just blowing away some Imperial remnants. I cannot wait.
And Lando coming in there too.
Oh,
like,
yeah,
Han
of course,
and Lando.
Lady Luck. Yeah. Oh man.
I don't think we've really seen that ever, at least in canon. So I guess logically we couldn't have. Han was the Hansicle, while Lando was doing his thing. So yeah, I will say Alex Segura, he's definitely and company have definitely captured the feel and the drive of the vibe of this year between Endor and Jakku. Again, I have some questions about how fits in continuity wise. But yeah, the concerns about this Imperial remnant versus the fledgling New Republic, and here they, it's great confrontation. We'll say we are going to be taking a break for the next few weeks for the holidays. I'll be on halfway across the continent, and I'll be visiting family, and so taking it easy. I guess next week I'll still be here, but taking a break to be with family. Hope everyone, you and yours, everyone listening, is and has a great time with family. Does pick up this comic book, please do. But does it for. I don't know. We might be able to do something New Year's Eve. I don't quite know. I'll still be elsewhere, so we'll see.
I'll be elsewhere as well.
You'll be elsewhere, more reason one. Never mind. So we'll be back first week of January. So the first week of comics in 2025 is the next thing. Well, one of the next things you'll hear me say. But that about does it for Tractor Beam, our issue 115 here in December 18th, 2024. Chris, again, thanks. Another great show, another great conversation. We got through all these 5 books in a bit of a whirlwind, but thankfully, a few of them hold together really nicely with each other. And so, looking forward to what 2025 has in store. Where can they find you on the internet and with Outer Rim transmissions and everything going on?
Yeah, so if you want the review for the Battle of Jakku Last Stand, issue number 1, I will have that on my channel, youtube.com/StarRaptor, since we won't be talking about it for a while. I'll have that available for you guys to watch, along with all the other things, along with my reaction to the Superman teaser trailer, which I'm so hyped about. The next evolution of DC. It all starts tomorrow. Our first look at Superman. Can't freaking wait. So I'm starting to branch out from Star Wars, just trying other things.
DC, EU. Sorry. I'm kidding.
It actually looks good. They put out a 30-second clip of the trailer, and it's like bright and cheerful. It's not dour and dark. So there's a bright future for the DC. I'm calling it right now. So
the guy from Guardians of the Galaxy finally got involved there.
Yeah, something like that. So you can find all that stuff there. Twitter, I'll be talking about video games, Indiana Jones, and Dragon Age, and everything else. That's on Twitter at StarRaptor. And it's the 2 places you can find me. But I feel like we did an admirable job tonight. I mean, there was a lot of content, even fit in some thoughts of Skeleton Crew, very efficient. Got this all in under an hour and a half with 5+ books, basically. It's like, what the heck,
It's how we roll. I mean, we got to get them all in. That's what it is. We got to get them all in before the break is how it is. Go for it.
Oh, by the way, so I said, 5+ books here, because we did have, I didn't even show off the comic.
Number
let me grab it. Let me grab it. Yeah, we got the official live action appearance of Throne. I don't know if that's going to make it sell more, but Probably the first live action appearance of the live, Lars Mikkelsen on the cover there.
Well, it's not the first canon appearance, like the Thrawn.
Yeah, because we're the Thrawn of the adaptations.
Yeah.
So
but still, I know the way those things work. It's probably true.
Yeah, but as I say, you read the comic, you watch the episode. If you watch the episode, you've read the comic, as the guys over at the splash page always say. So same thing there.
We've discovered the true purpose. Sorry, I'm so cynical about those. Anyway, I won't go there. Sorry. Train of thought. You can follow us, of course, also the @Ion Cannon Pod, EYEONCANONPOD on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, IonCannon.bluesky, Bisky.social, on the Ion Cannon podcast. That was Mondays, right here on the Underworld YouTube channel, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Pacific. This past Monday, I had a great conversation with Sophia of Daughters of Ferrix. Talked all about faith and church and all that fun Jedi stuff, Star Wars stuff. Really talking about Star Wars and Christianity and a good Advent reflection. It was really double nerdery. It was very double nerdery. So it was good. And then this coming Monday, Joel and I are back at it one last time in 2024. We're looking back on our favorite Star Wars stories in 2024.
Oh, cool.
And then, of course, first episode for issue 2025. We're going to look ahead But yeah, check that out right here on the Underworld channel this coming Monday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Pacific time, and then we're also taking a break after that for the holidays. Yeah, I mean, as far as I know, let's see. Joel's free to do what he wants, but I'll be taking a break. You can follow my personals, MNUG1135 on Instagram, and MNUG1135.bsky.social on Blue Sky, NUG45 still over on the Bird app, and beaches.foodie. Although I haven't posted enough at beaches.foodie on Instagram. Also, MNUG1138 on Threads as well. Yeah, talking about who knows what else. What do I tweet about these days? I tweet about Star Wars. I tweet about soccer. Who knows what else? Doing the socials, doing the thing there. Yeah, enjoying Blue Sky. I will say it's pretty good, pretty fun. But yeah, but does it for Tractor Beam in 2024. Be another great year rolling this through. Do check out Battle of Jakku, Last Stand #1. But more importantly, have a wonderful time with family and friends, and whether you have faith or none, hopefully have a wonderful Christmas, holiday, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, whatever it is you celebrate season. But yeah, that does it for Tractor Beam in 2024. Chris, happy reading.